All right, everybody. Welcome to the One World Podcast. It's myself, Devin, and we got Rich Doug over here. You're experienced a contestant and the host of the season, and it's not what you think it is. And it's reversed, I would say, with me playing as a surprise and Richie um, kind of co-hosting with Christian, but hosting a lot of it as well for the first time for our Survivor. So, yeah, going to dive into the episodes, every single one, like we did with Cabin Fever. So we thought we'd do it again. I thought another smaller season with 10 people like Cabin Fever. So we thought we could break it down and probably won't be like a ton of episodes. Like, there'll probably be, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9. It just depends. Um, Unlike, we usually have like 10 or 11. So I think it was a good time to maybe see how it is because people wanted it. People voted for to do a podcast. So yeah.
I also voted for the podcast, so thanks for voting with me, everyone.
Yeah, so if we want to just dive into it right away, I mean, if you want to kind of talk about maybe how this kind of came together and the hosting aspect of it quickly, and then kind of want to dive into all the aspects of the episode, player wise and things that happen. And
Yeah,
obviously, we know what ends up happening, so we're not going to reveal too much in depth, like, oh my gosh, they're playing so good at this point, but we'll try our best because we're not going to spoil anything for the viewers.
yeah. So this was a lot of fun to plan out. There's some people who know, there's some people who don't. For when I was called to host it, it wasn't. I think it was like a little over a week and a half before. When I got the call to host, I jumped on it. I'm like, hell yes, I'm doing this. Let's go. I was excited to plan this out. There's some people who know I did host up for Survivor Cincy, which unfortunately, due to a couple of poor decisions people made and the higher ups that say Norbert after I left isn't on air anymore, which pisses me off. But that's a different story. I'm not going to get into because that's a long story. I don't want to get into. It's not up for anymore, but people know I hosted it, and so I definitely had a lot of knowledge about what usually works well, what didn't work well. Um, and so when I got the call to host, I'm like, boom, I want to make sure this at least goes good. And obviously, me and Christian started planning as soon as we could for all of it. One World was kind of the one of the biggest opening twists we had to the season in terms of thematics and all of that. That was something that Christian and I already knew we were going to do because when I saw the video of the place, I'm like, this might be a little small to where we have to do One World. Um, just to make sure that because I mean we could have tried to separate into two at the start, but then it's kind of it's a little small, so it's I don't know. I feel like One World was just a safer thing to do. There were a bunch of stuff we did think about potentially thematically, but we kind of eventually it's kind of settled on One World being the thematic thing of it. A couple other fun things. At SNC, as I mentioned before, one of the themes I did when I did a One World thing was that we had them start off as one merged tribe, and that was the game. And so that part, I was kind of thinking to myself, if we had X amount of people, we could just start them off one group, all individual, and just see how that goes. Because I do think it's a very interesting dynamic to see how they react. Because, even though some people could think oh, it's less options because there's less people in the game, if they would have been on tribes, it's 4 to 5 other options potentially. Whereas if it's one group, there's so many more options they could go for, so many more people they could talk to. So it could potentially give more options. And I think for certain people, they had it was probably a lot more options for certain people to keep themselves safe. One thing I definitely want to go into depth with too, in terms of just quick stuff at the start, I want to get onto in terms of thematics and designing stuff. A lot of people probably saw Matt's two idol fights at the start of the game, which when I heard that I was cackling, which I'll definitely talk into that later. But I just want to talk design thing quickly, where I did a lot of research into stuff during the season. And I was thinking what's a history of the area we filmed in? For some people who do or don't know, we filmed, I think it was in Big Bend in Wisconsin. And one thing I saw is that there was a lot of history involving water, where there was national springs that or it was springs that brought freshwater springs. I cannot speak to this. Freshwater springs that brought national attention in the late 1800s. And there was a lot of drama with people from Chicago wanting to bring it forth down there to get fresh water, and people in the area were like, no, you're gonna screw up our water supply up here. And like a lot of like I think some guns were involved at that one point from what I read up on. So like when I saw that, I'm like, I gotta make a little fun design with the idols on because of this. So what I did is that I had a little like raindrop like thing, like a water drop, and then I just had like a six in the middle. It was very simplistic, probably not my greatest work on the planet, but I thought it was pretty fun. So, and then the other special twist of the season, i.e., moi, um, me and Christian always knew we were gonna surprise people with me hosting. So I literally hid in a back corner, I think when Christian started, pretending I was fidgeting around with production stuff, and I just when he said it, like, you think we're gonna do this without fucking Rich Dog? I just like jumped out and I'm like, I was gonna do an evil cackle. I decided not to not scare people. So
Yeah, I mean it was cool. I honestly didn't look at the design too much. But yeah, I mean I was in the thing that was interesting was I was part of planning like who was going to be on the season initially. I wasn't going to be playing. And we were kind of stuck at 8 people for a long time, and it's like eight's such a good number to start, but like can't do a season with 8 people. So
right,
I talked to me and Collin about, playing, and I was like, it's not like I have anything planned. I didn't have any challenges or any twists or anything. I did know, the other players that were going to be in it, but a lot of other people knew. I mean, Miranda and all of her friends knew that each other were playing, and Matt, Sam, and Chris kind of knew Miranda was playing too. They know who she was because they went to the same high school, just younger. So they all kind of knew who was playing, but they didn't know about me and Collin. Me and Collin were trying to get a couple other people to play, including Adam and Nathan. They just weren't able to. And then, we were hoping that it'd be more than 10 people. I honestly didn't really want to do the season, to be honest, with 10 people only. I thought might be a waste of money and stuff. It ends up being still a good season, everybody, but it definitely kind of sucked that I thought there maybe would be a couple more people, but definitely myself before I started playing, and then Richie once he took over hosting asked a ton of people, so just
and
didn't
it's
work
at
out.
least like 200 people for those wondering, and I'm not exaggerating. People can go through my phone if they don't believe me. It was around at least 200 in
Yeah,
the span of a
so
week and a half.
yeah, so it's tough. Yeah, I mean, I told Richie a ton of people I already asked before he even took over that like would potentially be like returning players. So that kind of sucked. There's part of me that's like, oh, I wish the season kind of maybe didn't happen then with only 10 people. But it is what it is, and it was still cool to get one in again, and another Wisconsin season at a different location. So yeah, it was a surprise I was playing. So I mean, we can kind of dive into now like the game aspect of it, which is mainly what we'll be talking about every week, every after after every episode. Um, so yeah, I mean, me and Colin kind of surprised we were joining the cast. I mean, I initially thought, yeah, it was probably going to be some kind of one world thing or individual at least to start, just because of the space. I will say, if it was nicer out and not so cold, in Wisconsin in the beginning of March, I do feel like we probably could have divided in tribes right away. 10 people, you can't really though.
Right.
We did that in Cabin Fever. I honestly regretted doing that. 5-5 is just too small.
Well,
Um,
gee, I wonder how that worked for certain players, Devin. I wonder.
at least I had Redemption Island though for that one. So,
Right, right. I
um,
did. I did fuck up a redemption. That's on me. I still know I fucked up that
uh,
season.
so yeah, I mean, that was cool. It was cool seeing everybody playing. I mean, initially from the start, I mean, I guess the first things that kind of happened was Matt finding those two idols. Not a ton of conversations were really going on. Everyone was just kind of looking. Um, I honestly wasn't looking a ton. There was part of me, I told Christian this was I almost didn't really want to find something because I was like I could see people being like, oh, he knew about it beforehand or something. Because if you seen that
Oh yeah.
right away, I mean, I definitely looked, but I was like, part of me was like, I don't know if I want. Obviously, I wanted something, but it's like I don't, I was kind of
Right.
pulling me
Well, and
back
the
and
thing
forth.
that well, the thing that gets me because I was the same exact way when I played. A lot of people know my first season was Twist Manor back in 2020. Holy shit, that was 4.5 years ago. Um, and even back then, I was the same way. Like, I did not want to find an idol too quick off the bat because back then I was thinking, like, if I have something, someone finds out about it somehow, guess what? It's a big target on my back. And that's why when I did have idols in fans versus favorites, I immediately got rid of whatever I had because I'm thinking, I don't want to have this because the longer you have it, the more of a target it puts on you. Like the second you find it could put a target on you. So it's like I definitely totally get that mindset of like not wanting to have something that game wise, not just because they could think you knew where it was, but also just game ramifications of like they could think like what else is he gonna find? Like, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah, and I
it's
mean,
it's
and
tricky to balance like that part of the game for a player at hand. So
And I mean, there wasn't a lot of spots you could hide stuff. It was very open, like space. Like, so obviously, when Matt found I mean, someone saw him find the first thing Collin did, and then we see Collin confront him, and Matt tells him it's an extra vote. And then the second one, I actually saw him find that. I mean, you can see in the video of like I kind of locked eyes while he grabbed it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was something, and then he told me as well as an extra vote. And then obviously, I think Richie, if you want to touch on that part of maybe me exposing Matt a little bit about that event later in the
that
episode.
was after the challenge. That was after the challenge,
Yeah,
but I was
we'll
thinking,
get back to it then if you want. We can.
yeah, we'll wait till after the challenge because it
Yeah.
was after. But I was laughing so hard at that scene. But I know, yeah, kind of matches find shit really quickly off the bat. He's like, it's a season of Matt, and like I'm just like, it's giving like the same energy as like which season was it that I kept saying that and then I got taken out super fast? Which season again? I don't remember. I've done
I don't know either which one you're talking
insert any season name to be honest. Insert a season it wasn't even on and you could say the same thing.
about.
But yeah, I think it was basically just that. A lot of talks off the bat. And I do kind of think that a lot of these players not wanting to say too much off the bat, I would say it's kind of normal, especially for like a twist like this, because you know, in the moment they're thinking along the lines of like, if we say something, it gets around to everyone, not just a few people in our tribe, but to everyone, because they're playing with everyone in the game. And as we've seen in some seasons, if you go too hard too fast, immediate target. And so I definitely think that a lot of people just kind of playing it smooth and quiet was the best thing they could have did. And so that way, you know, strategically, you're not putting a huge target on your back. So you
Yeah,
never want to be the fourth one. You always want to be like second or third, probably. So
yeah, and honestly, I feel like we can kind of get to the challenge. I feel like nothing really
yeah,
besides Matt finding those two idols, which is crazy. Definitely give him props there. I will say there's not a ton of spots to look, so I mean, maybe you can say it's a little easier than normal to find those, but it's still impressive as hell that he's the one that found both of them. Like anybody else could have found them. It's not like anybody else
I
didn't
still don't know
grab
how
them.
he found them both so fast. I still don't know how. Like he knows what to look for, so I'll give him that.
Luck was on his side in that first episode, Survivor Matt, as it was called. Yeah, do you want to touch on the first challenge then? Obviously, you and Christian playing that. I'm assuming maybe you did more, but yeah, you want to touch on that one to
Yeah,
start?
I was the one who planned the first challenge, as people will know, and I will grab it. It was for individual immunity because it was all individual to start a game. And I just want to say something about the necklace. If I can, here we go. So the necklace was something that I actually designed. And if you notice, it's not like a blue water drop thing, but a bit of a blood thing. I had a whole different speech plan in case someone asked me about it, but initially I designed this for a season we almost did last year. I'm not going to say what it was, but it involved the theme of like the title theme would have involved the word blood in it. Um, so one side, red letters, or sorry, red with black letters, and what it said immunity with a black six in the middle with a red background. The other side, there we go. The other side would have been black background, red letters that spelled Wisconsin, decorated
Nice.
with little shells. Thank you. Yeah, I had this design last year and I figured I didn't have much time to design. I should say I didn't have much time. I wasn't sure how much or what I could design in a short amount of time. So I figured I'll use this, format it a little. If anyone would have asked, I would have went on a whole BS speech about this may be one world, but in one world and Survivor, you have to draw blood in this game. And like, I would have made up something like
There you go,
I can,
right?
I can,
Yeah.
I can. If I'm hosting, I can do that. And it's like one of the SNC seasons I did. We were supposed to do a theme involving like social groups and Greek groups or whatever, and the secondary theme was going to be men versus women. We couldn't get enough groups represented that season, so we just fell to the secondary theme of men versus women. We ended up only having 6 women versus 7 men, and half those women were returnees. So we're filming in the moment, and I'm all like, the women have the advantage of experience, the men have the advantage of numbers. And I just went a whole bullshit explanation with that. And then after it filmed, I'm like, how did I do that in like 3 seconds? Like, so like when I planned this bullshit explanation, the second I showed him this necklace, I was like, boom. I also put seashells on here. Sorry, that was a long rant.
Right.
I'll get to the actual challenge now that I got to the design part of this because I was really proud of this. Um, People are gonna be hearing my autistic ass rants and going like, "What the fuck, Richie?" The challenge was something that actually was from my first season Twist Manor, the one they did right after they voted me off. And um, what happened was so what happened was that they would have a table, a couple tables. They had to flip their water bottle onto it. They had to flip it onto each table, and the first one to flip a water bottle onto each table would win individual immunity. And something I really did like about this season with challenges, I'm not going to spoil challenges we do later on, but I really thought this season about bringing back a lot of challenges that we didn't do before or trying to make new challenges that we haven't done before. Because I know there are some seasons where we would do a lot of the same challenges back to back to back. Some are easy to set up, some were fun to do, but I kind of thought to myself, like, let's get some new things in the mix. And that was one of my favorite. I don't believe we did that type of challenge since I believe Blood versus Water, if I recall correctly, was the
Yeah,
last
it's
time
been
we
a
did that
while.
one. And of course, yeah, and of course, like back then we had a shelf to do it on. I'm thinking I can't stack the tables on each other. I almost saw stacking the tables in front of each other, but then I'm like, no, someone's ass is gonna get hit or they're gonna get like back of the head concussion or something. So I decided horizontal, one by one by one, and I thought it went pretty well. It was definitely a fun opening challenge, I feel like, because that was one of my favorites to watch. Is just thinking like who can flip it first. And it's such a niche little like skill-based challenge, I feel like, but it's so fun.
Like anyone could
I
win it
never got
though.
right, anyone can win it, right? And I definitely had that with every challenge I did plan out. Again, not gonna say what challenges I planned out, but I always try to think like, could it be a challenge that anyone could win, whether it's physical based, mental based, skill based, endurance based, anything? Like who could like realistically win out? Like, and could it be a fair fight for everyone? You know, I think some went well, some maybe could have been better prepped, but on my end, but I think this first one for sure went very well. It was fun to watch. We get Abby getting her nickname of ACDC Abby, which I thought that was really funny. Like a quick early favorite for me, just that whole scene alone. She's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, I swear she was so much fun. In that first freaking challenge alone, just her going off and like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And
it's just
then
good. Entertaining.
right, and then we had Dolphin Sam winning his first individual immunity after 4 seasons and him winning the perfect game last time. He finally wins an individual immunity. And I kind of looked at that and I kind of thought to myself, yeah, I think he briefly mentioned first time. And I think as he said that, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like we were like almost psychically linked up in that. And I'm like, holy shit, that is his first time. And it felt like, do you remember Heroes versus Villains where like Jerry gets her first immunity? She's like, this is my first one, Jeff. Really? Like that's almost low key what it felt like. I was like, kind of like, Sam, you won individual immunity, you know? And as people can see here, this little blue tape thing at the top, I'm laughing at this actually because Christian knew how much I almost panicked when this happened. When I pulled it out of the basket, I had trouble pulling it out when I was showing everyone the first time, and it snapped or broke at first at the top. So I showed it, held it up like this, and then when you guys were talking about the challenges and separating like each side of the table, I like wrapping tape on it frantically, like so the fact it didn't break when Sam got it was personal win for me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
loved how he said it was the most Richie necklace he had ever seen. That was, I hope it was a compliment. I assumed it was.
I think so. Um, yeah, I mean, it
Hoping
was
it
a
was
fun challenge. It was chaotic. My, if I could have done anything with it as a host to a host, I would have maybe done 2 heats of 5, just so it was a little less chaotic. But it was still really fun. I
right.
shared.
And we
I
def
shared Go ahead.
sorry, I don't want to. I was gonna say like we definitely kind of thought of that last second. But the thing I thought about is I worried it was gonna take too long if we did 2 heats of 5. Because then I thought like if it's 2 heats of 5, it's gonna take a longer time because we have to set up twice for the challenge. We have to
Yeah.
divide them up twice. And my other worry was that if we had people go in separate heats, then one person who maybe could have won one heat against A, B, C, and D is going to lose against E, F, G, and H. So it's kind of also balancing that. I figured, let's see what happens, at least to see what happened. I think was something I definitely considered for sure, though. Yeah, we definitely did kind of think of that, like 2 heats of five. And I'm like, it might take too long just setting everything up. But yeah, I mean, I still think it definitely went better. At least better than my redemption challenge and cabin fever.
Um,
I don't think anyone could do worse than me in that
yeah,
challenge.
yeah, it was a fun challenge. Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy happened with it. I mentioned a couple times is I just said me and Alejandro shared a moment just with we were on opposite ends of the table and we were just like we would shoot at like the same time and we would just like rebound for each other and just pass it back and forth. Like so it was just kind of funny.
Oh,
Um,
you two had a moment. That's adorable.
yeah, but yeah. So yeah, we can get into the strategy part then. I mean, I'll talk about kind of my end, what I saw going on, and then if you want to talk, and then you can talk about what everything else you saw going on and perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was, I heard Matt's name a lot from a lot of people. They didn't love how he was, I don't know, I guess kind of had a big ego. I don't know what he was doing necessarily to show that off to the other people. Um, but yeah, Matt's name was floated around a lot. I was not going for Matt right away from the beginning, no way. Um, so I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be doing Matt. So it's kind of like, who are we going to pick? I kind of wanted to go for Miranda's friends right away, personally. One of them, at least. Like the first one, I'm like, I'm not going for any of their attorneys right away. I'm not making a big move the very first vote like that. And then I was like, we see Matt kind of bring up Miranda to me, like we could go Miranda, like she's probably the leader kind of all of them, which was a good thought. But I was like, if we go Miranda now, then like that completely like kind of loses the trust of Collin. I feel like even though they necessarily were saying they didn't want to like play together, it's still like kind of gonna rub them the wrong way. I know in the long run. So that was kind of my thought process. For me, it was kind of between Abby and Alejandro. Honestly, looking back at it, like just this round alone, I kind of wish we would have kept Alejandro. Um, Abby definitely had more to say. Alejandro probably would have too. We just didn't get to see him say a lot in there besides just kind of wanting to go for Matt. But I feel like Alejandro might have been on my side, so I regret that a little bit. But it is what it is, and um, yeah, I mean, I do kind of wish we won Abby instead. Um, yeah, I mean that's kind of it. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just kind of getting everyone on the same page, and then just reassuring that everyone was just aligned together and I was kind of trying to see who was going to be my ride or die. I always try to get one, and yeah, we'll touch on that more, I guess. But yeah, if you want to jump in,
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about future episodes to talk
yeah,
about ride or dies for sure. I know, like for me, for sure, when I was seeing a lot of people just trying to agree to be in a majority, yeah, it's a boring thing if it's just borderline unanimous that first vote, but it's also like from playing so many times, I do know the best thing you need to do is just even if it's someone you don't want to vote off, just get in a majority and try to work your magic in from there. Like because if you just try to get on the good side of whoever's in charge, they could be the cult leader of the tribe, and you get on their good side, you could pull a hunter, be the number two that slits their throat and snipes them or something in the end game, Um, so I mean, a lot of people, I mean, with it being as close of a vote as it was, like the fact that it was so close, despite people wanting to be in the majority and all this side stuff, it was really interesting also to see the vote switch up like a few times because I feel like 1 minute it was more Matt, and then he goes up to you. He's like, oh, because this is after he lied to everyone saying he had an extra vote, which I forgot to mention before the challenge. But he's like, I have an extra vote, or I have an idol, but we tell him it's an extra vote. And then you go up there and I'm like, you fucking liar. And I was dying. That was an iconic moment right
do you
there.
not know I did that?
Well, because like he initially told he was an extra vote, and then like he's like, well, I'm
Oh,
gonna
but
play
did
my
you know I
idol.
said that? Like, or obviously you wouldn't have. You weren't there in the moment, but.
Well, I watched it, so like I had to know.
No, I'm saying like prior to watching it, did you know I said that to
Oh,
him?
prior to no, I did not know prior to watching it. No, when I saw it in the episode, I was dying. I paused and just started laughing because I'm like the way you just clocked him immediately. He's like, "You told me it's an extra vote. You lie." I'm like, that was so me coded. And in that moment, I was like, I taught him well.
Yeah, you taught me well. No, yeah, I mean, and then I mean, I'll just jump into that just that part about the Matt thing like that. But I mean, you see earlier before the challenge when he did find that first one when Dolphin Sam was watching him open and everything, and Matt was saying to Dolphin Sam, I'm going to say it's an extra vote. He said it to Collin, and then he said it to me. And then when time comes to shove, I'm like, yeah, people are saying your name, man, to Matt. So I was looking out for him. And he's like,
Right.
yeah, I might have to play it. I'm like, play what? He's like, my idol. I'm like, I thought you had an extra vote, liar, you know? And then in my confessional, I said, yeah, Matt was being short with me. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I honestly didn't really care that much. I'm like, if he's going to play it anyways. In my thought, though, I didn't know he had a second one at this time. I thought he just had the one because Collin saw him find something, and I saw him find something, but I thought it was the same, time. But yeah, so that was interesting. I mean, it was a fun dynamic in that first round. It was fun for me personally, just getting back in it, like just back in the game and stuff. Like it was like been 4 years, 10 seasons. I was like, just feels good to be strategizing. I didn't feel stressed at all. I was just like enjoying it,
Yeah, I
talking to
see that.
people, talking a little shit if I had to, but nothing crazy. I just, a couple things like I did talk a little shit about you, but nothing crazy. I
Well,
apologize.
yeah, I saw that. You were like, I'm the easy first vote. I totally what's gonna happen. I wonder what's gonna happen in a couple seasons from now.
No, I wouldn't. I was joking.
I hope to God they didn't just give anyone ideas, like I mean, it's funny thing because people will try to vote me out first. Now I'm just gonna complain for like 30 seconds about me. But people always try to get me out first, and then they're like, oh, I wonder who can vote with me and be on their side. Oh well, you just voted out someone that could have been on your side the first round because I was the easy vote. The easy vote's not always the right thing to do.
Right.
Like it really is a balance between what's the easy majority vote and what's the right vote. And you need to find that both kind of middle ground. And I think for some people, voting Alejandro that first round, who does eventually unfortunately go out this episode premiere wise, um, even though like he is the person that it's like some of them like clearly flipped on or like I think this is the right move. Going out of the premiere alone, you kind of think, was it? Because like strategically, I think Miranda and possibly could have used Alejandro as a number. Obviously, there were like some of y'all were all like, could Alejandro be my number? I don't really know, but I mean, obviously, we're gonna see what happens in the future with it. I'm not spoiling anything, but you always gotta have to think about that in the game, like that person everyone wants a target. Are they actually the best thing to go for, or should you try to flip the majority and get in a new majority against someone else to get that easy vote on your side for later on? And I think some ways, some people kind of did that. I almost kind of feel like Dolphin Sandman and Chris kind of did that when he knew it was Matt,
Yeah.
and he tried to get a new majority to save themselves. So the easy vote was going to be on their side, but yeah, that's kind of my rant with that.
Yeah, I showed me and Matt kind of talking, and I said, yeah, I mean, I would play it if I were you. Like, I'm serious. Like, you got votes coming your way. Obviously, he didn't have to because there's a 6-4 vote, four for him and six for Alejandro. But there was a big thing. Like, we
right,
didn't know for sure if Miranda was going to go Matt or Alejandro because, I mean, when I was talking to Miranda, she did sound like she was going for Alejandro, but she was saying Matt's name a lot. And it's like, if all those girls are going Matt, is she going to go with them? So, there's still
right,
like a possibility it's a 5-5 tie. It's like you might as well just kind of get out of the way. And it's like,
right.
all
Better safe than sorry.
I mean, and I did too. I'll share this little nugget. At Tribal when I was talking to Collin, like kind of whispering, Collin said something to me. He's like, "Yeah, Matt has an extra vote," and I said, "It's actually an idol." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah." So I did tell Collin a little before Matt then played it. But again, at that moment, we only knew he had one. So that was a good play by Matt. I mean, he didn't have to play necessarily, but like if I was in his shoes, I would have. We weren't for sure about that Miranda flip. The thing I want to touch on really quick was kind of like the last second thing that honestly, obviously didn't go anywhere because they didn't end up doing it. But Sam kind of bringing up multiple times about maybe going for Collin that first round. He said in his confessional, and then him and Matt were talking, and Matt's like, "Put the votes all on me. Tell everyone to vote for me. Let's take Collin out here." And it seemed like Matt and Sam kind of passed it to Chris. I kind of talked to Sam and Matt on the side recently, like kind of what happened, just to get insight because the episode doesn't really show what ended up happening. And honestly, I don't think they really talk about it the next episode, early on at least. It kind of sounded like they just didn't really have a fourth number for it. And if they would have ended up doing it that way, it would have been like if they didn't tell me Miranda and Collin, it would have been a 3-3, 4-3-3 vote. The four votes would have been canceled for Matt. And it would have been a 3-3 tie between Collin and um, Alejandro. So that would have been very interesting. But sounded like they just didn't do it because it was seemed like last second, and they couldn't get a fourth number. Just to share that little thought because that was interesting. I had no idea that they were kind of like, yeah, we should just do it right now. I was like, and they could have honestly made it happen. I don't know what would have happened in the tie. I think Alejandra still goes out because I think those girls might have saved Collin, but I don't know. It would have been interesting.
Well, right, and that's what I really did like about the this first episode. Is that normally in a first episode, you maybe get one or two names thrown out, but it's a very clear like who's gonna go out. Like I think the biggest examples of this are outside of my couple seasons I've been first out. I think a couple of big examples of this happening could even be kind of like last season where Dominic's a very easy first boot, where the other evolution, it's a very easy like Tyler's probably clear first boot, or it's Matt. It's one of those two. And Wisconsin won. It's very clearly going to come down to like Stibe or Adam Carr. And Summer Solstice, another example. It's very clearly Allie who gets the boot first episode premiere wise. And what I liked about this one is that pretty much everyone's name was being thrown out. Like your name, Colin's name, Matt's name. I think even Sam at one point was thrown out. And they're like, no, he has immunity. And they're like, oh, Caitlin's name got thrown out there. I think there's only like maybe 2 to 3 names of people who did not get thrown out. I think it was like what, like Julia Miranda, right? I
I
don't.
mean, Matt even brought up Miranda though for a second, and I was like,
Oh yeah,
I
because I think
honestly think, I think Julia, and I think I was the only one that really said Caitlin in my confessional. Like, yeah, I'd go for her maybe,
yeah.
but
I mean,
yeah,
but yeah, I'd still consider that to be like something of like a name being
yeah,
thrown out. I guess that's
yeah,
overall because like I think Julia was the only one who was able to skate by, and what that says for a future in the game, who knows? I mean, we know, but we're not going to tell.
yeah. I don't know.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, the fact that Julia was one of the only people who didn't get her name thrown out there, you know, it's a definitely great thing to have for Julia, because that's what you want in the game. You don't want people even thinking about you at all. But if one person's thinking about you, all it takes is one conversation. They tell someone else, that person tells a friend, they tell a friend, they tell a friend, they tell a friend, and then before you know it, everyone's on your ass.
Hmm.
So
There's nowhere
the
really
fact
to
that
hide with 10 people.
right, and I think I don't want to sound like Jeff Probst, but I think that's what kind of makes the game scarier when there's a less options, I guess.
Yeah,
Not to sound like Grandpa Jeff here, but like, I mean, I think at least for this season, and that's actually why I did kind of like about this being 10 peoples, and not only do I think it's a unique, not only do I think it's a unique way to have the tribes like all together and like in terms of cast variants and cast sizes, another like season of like, could it be a big cast or small cast? But I do also think that just overall, with this being a different format for a 10-person season where everyone's starting off individually, you do have more options, but there's less options at the same time, I guess. I don't know if I explained that the best, but
yeah. I think that
alrighty.
was a good breakdown, Richie, of what you were saying last. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that we were going to touch on. Um, I think it was a very good premiere. I guess I would say, um, would you, 3 questions I'll have you answer here. All right. First, what did you think of the intro? Second, what was your favorite moment about the episode? And then third, what's something that you just want to kind of share quickly, with the audience about that episode that stuck out to you or that people should keep an eye on, just something like that.
Um, yeah, so something that for the intro, I thought the intro was really fun. Um, in terms of just making sure I'm talking about the right thing, we're talking about the theme intro type of thing, or just the intro of like this is the twist of the season.
I would say the intro, like of all the players and stuff, not when you guys came in, but the intro of like with the music,
Okay, that's what I thought. Just want to make sure I went on
yeah,
the rant about the right thing this time. uh, yeah, I thought it was really fun. I like the One World song in the background. It was so cool. That song is catchy. It gets stuck in my head. Um, I almost forgot the second question.
favorite moment.
Favorite here, yeah. There was a lot of moments. I did like coming out. That was one of my favorite moments. I have a few favorite moments. One of mine was coming out and everyone being like, "Oh my gosh, she's hosting." I would have probably liked it more if it didn't look like a bloated chalupa in that scene, but
Anyways,
the way you just looked, you're like, yeah, no, I looked like a bloated pumpkin in that scene, and I thought it looked so cool. Like when Christian came in with his little fit on the morning of, I was kind of thinking like, I thought we were going casual. I didn't know. Like I almost went to grab this orange flannel I had, and I was like, maybe I'll wear this, and I'm like, no, I'll keep the hoodie. I asked Alex, I'm like, what do you think, hoodie or flannel? He's like, hoodie, and I'm like, okay. And then I wore the hoodie, and I looked like a bloated pumpkin, but that's on me because I ate too much food.
that was your favorite
Anyways,
moment.
that was one of mine. One of my other ones was a challenge because that was just such a fun challenge. And one of my other favorite moments, and it did lead to Sam winning his first one, which I think is kind of like a fun thing to do, like an iconic player who's played in the past winning the first one. So I thought it was pretty fun for him. My third was you clocking that. That was one of my other favorite moments. You're like, you liar. And like, that had me cackling. I was like, clock his ass, like pulling me and clock him for that. Like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. Something about people, audience. I something I want to show to the audience. I'm trying to think about it. I guess one thing I'd share with the audience is that something that really interested me actually, that there was a little bit of talk this season about like, I don't want to say gender warfare, but there was a lot of talk about that I was really surprised with, about people saying like, they wanted to split up the girls because we're about the girls teaming up together, and that they were talking. I think even Chris even said that it was a male
Yep.
dominated game usually, and that definitely kind of like got me really invested in that. I'm like, wow, like I mean, it's something I kind of thought of but didn't really like go really too much into thought of. But like when I heard that during filming, I was like, wow, okay, I guess I kind of like, because we've had out of the first 15 seasons of Survivor Wisconsin, there were like more men than women. So that definitely kind of got me thinking about that. And I was like, okay, wow, like I didn't really think too much into that. But yeah, technically, the guys usually, and technically, most seasons we don't get a lot of women. So, like, women, if you're interested in playing, talk to us. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting commentary almost on that. And just, I don't know. I thought that was very interesting. It was like nothing like too over the top to where it felt like over the top, like social political, but it was like just enough to where it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's something interesting to kind of think into. Um, and definitely kind of the thought process of like, would an all women's alliance work well in the game in our Survivor? I don't know. I think it'd be fun to watch because some of the most iconic women's alliances, like the Black Widow Brigade, oh, Party Shell was a queen. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, I'll comment on that just because it had to do with me a little bit. Was Yeah, I mean, because Chris said in his confessional that Devin doesn't want to go for the girl, and he thought it was mainly because of that reasoning, like that we haven't had a ton on the show, and I don't want to first out. I mean, all I said was when we were talking about Abby or Alejandro, I just was like, yeah, I don't know about going for Abby, and then I said I don't know if I want to go for one of the girls right away. And then I kind of brought up to Abby and Julia, and I said, so not to get too like in depth right away, but are you guys open to turning on your friends eventually? They said, yeah, they just didn't want to do it right away. And then I just went into saying, yeah, I agree. I don't really want to. And then they're like, we don't want this to become a boy girl thing. And I said, yeah, I agree. I mean, we typically don't have a ton of girls every season. Last season in Captain's Curse, we did have an even amount, which was awesome. So,
well, it's only two
yeah,
times
that's
it
all
ever
I really
happened.
said. I mean, it's not like I was. And then Matt in his confessional voting was like, I think we're fucked. Devin has all the girls. It's like, I mean, they did defend me that one time when Sam kind of brought my name up. Caitlin was like, I know Devin knows a lot, but I feel like he's useful, whichever reasoning whatever it was. But yeah, I don't know. So that is interesting. I mean, when I was there in that round, I wasn't really thinking like that, but it was interesting to see it come back when like Chris and Matt kind of brought it up about the girl situation. So
Right, and I was like, I definitely thought it was like really interesting. And for Julia and Kaylin, I believe it said there was a two, or was it Julia and Abby? Yeah, there was
oh yeah,
Julia and
Julie and
Abby.
Abby actually. Yeah, you're right. But
Yeah, I thought it was Caitlyn. I'm like, wait.
Caitlyn defended me to Sam, like when Sam said about maybe going for me.
Yeah, so with Abby and Julia, I think it was really interesting with the fact that just kind of with them also not wanting to go for their friends right off the bat. Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, maybe it puts them at a bit of a disadvantage, or people think I'm thinking too team wise, but if they know about half the cast they're playing with and almost half their opponents, they don't want to go against that because then that's like half the group against them. You know what I mean? So how it goes for Miranda and if she's able to get back in those good terms with the other people, if they figure out she flipped, that's on her. But, I don't think it was the worst for Miranda if she did decide, like, oh, I'm going to go, keep with my friends and, sustain them for now. I mean, I do think going into it, hearing that Miranda's the one that was getting her and her friends to play this season, I kind of thought Miranda's probably going to be controlling them to the end. I kind of thought Tegan and her cult 2.0, but like not going against each other. But I mean, obviously, with this first episode, I don't know. We just have to see if it's going to be like last season with Tegan's group and just being like one by one by one by one. And the first half of the game is like majority of them going out back to back to back until like one or two of them are left. So I mean, I don't know. I do want the audience to know my winner picks because I'm not gonna say anything about how far or early they went out, or if they went out far early, or if they went out midway or whatever. My three picks before going into the game were actually you were one of my three. Matt was my other winner pick, and Miranda was my third winner pick. So I tried to narrow it down to one newbie, one returnee.
Mhm.
And usually I get really close with at least one name. We have to see which if I got close to one name and if I did, which one. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty fun premiere. Um I don't think I can think of anything. People probably be sighing and relieved that I'll be being quiet for a minute.
No, yeah, I think it was a fun premiere, like editing it all and stuff, and appreciate you, Christian, and Alex kind of run the show, and Alex do majority of the filming. I think we made it work best we could. Um, it's cool again, did another different place for another season. Yeah, man, Richie, it's interesting about the friend thing about maybe not really going for your friends, but Miranda kind of did, but she didn't go for one of the girls. Interesting.
Right.
Friends or foes might be foreshadowing there for the summer. Hint, hint. But yeah, I mean, it was a good premiere, and then starting to work on episode two. It might be a little bit of a shorter episode, just because I'll just say this: it was a lot quicker round than round one. I know typically in a merge that first round's a lot longer, just because you need the time to kind of get to know people and everything. So yeah, I'm working on episode two, and I'm not sure when it'll be released. My goal is maybe do every Tuesday, or we'll see if I'm going to do twice a week or not. I usually can, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it was a great first episode. Didn't really reveal on Instagram or anything who was all playing, just a couple little voices on a video. So I just kind of want to see how everyone would just kind of tune in and kind of get surprised themselves if they didn't know about it ahead of time. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy it, and you know, if you want stuff that want certain things for me and Richie to talk about more in the podcast about the episodes, feel free to comment on this, and we'll keep it going. I mean, we plan to hopefully do it after every episode. Um, Probably we'll try to record it after every episode so we have like a raw reaction. Um, so yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Obviously, we all know, me and Richie both know what happened, but you end up seeing more than you know that when you're there. While I'm playing, there's other stuff going on that I didn't hear about, maybe even after the game and so forth, and in interviews. Same with Richie. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I had to say. I mean, it was great seeing everything, and it was cool seeing, five more players into the mix. Would love to try to get more newbies always, but we'll see what happens. I think it was still a very well planned season by you and Christian.
Thank you. It was a fun season to plan out, and I'm not going to say too much. Just I don't want to spoil anything, but for those of you watching and wanting to, get a mini sneak peek of the rest of the season, just know there's many more big moments to come. I think this premiere had a few iconic moments in it, but I think there's a lot more big moments to come that will definitely leave people shocked. So I'm not going to say what it is, but
You think people are going to be shocked on some reactions?
some people might be shocked about the season and what happens during it. So who knows? I think it's going to be a very fun season that people are really going to be interested to see. I think there's a lot of big fun names that come up as bigger characters or however. And I think there's a lot of unique ways that the game becomes played by certain players in the future. I'm not going to say too much about that though. So
Yeah, I'll just do a quick, idol slash advantage update. I mean, all we know right now is Matt had two idols and he played one of them, so he still has one left. Nobody else has anything else.
he had
Um,
an extra vote, Devin.
yeah, bullshit. Um, so yeah, nine people are left, and we didn't really touch on it too much. I think we will later on, like after other episodes. But Alejandro is on the edge of extinction. The chance to come back in the game for it. Christian said in tribal council to prepare for a challenge to come back in the game. So we'll touch more on the edge of extinction thing. I think after the next episode because there'll be more than one person there. So I think that's kind of it. I enjoyed talking about it with you, Richie, and you know not like some stuff definitely happened to talk about, and I think it's only going to get more and more things to really dive deep into as more episodes come out.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to. It's sad Alejandro got out so early
Very sad.
because, yeah, because like when we saw he was the first one out, me and Alex were like shocked. We're like, no, because like
Who
he
did
seemed like
who
such a
did you think was maybe
relatable
going to go
guy.
out first initially?
I was thinking, um, one of either Matt, Chris, or probably Abby. I think was one of my predictions. After just hearing a couple of the names when, like right before voting, I was kind of thinking it's either Matt, Chris, or Abby because
Yeah,
I didn't hear too much, but I was kind of like it's one of those two. And I was like, I think when I heard Abby's name, I was like, no, like not Abby. Like she was my early fan favorite, and I was like, no, like we need that chaotic energy. So
yeah. I feel like the Alejandro vote was a little similar to Dominic, where I feel like, well,
right,
Alejandro's not out of the game. I mean, it's just like they seem like they have a lot of potential to do something in the game and can be likable to
it,
some people. I mean, you heard not just me, but a lot of people say, I don't even really want to vote Alejandro out right now.
right. But they knew it was a majority, and that if they went too far against a majority, it's their ass on line to future. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that could be a future season too. Like pre-merge boots who only played once.
Yeah,
There's actually a good chunk of them. So
there's a lot of them, but maybe it'd be hard to convince them. That was only downfall, unfortunately.
DeAndre,
Huh?
I was joking saying DeAndre from
Oh,
all the way back in season two.
yeah, still needs his
I was like,
revenge. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Get like freaking Caleb or Elizabeth in the mix. He gets his revenge that way.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, one person next week is definitely gonna win this necklace again. Little six here. I did not. I'm not an artist, so no one shit on my painting. Yeah. So I mean, I wonder who it is. I'm not gonna say too much about next week's thing. I almost want to give like a mini teaser description wise, like a vague description almost. You think I should, or you think I should just leave it for now with that?
For the episode or the challenge or both?
I was thinking both now. I actually wasn't thinking
Go
about the
ahead.
challenge, but
Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I think
This is a reward to whoever watches this.
it's a reward for this is your reward for hearing me talk so much, For next week's episode, some players may have to balance their lives in this game along with balancing certain items in a new challenge that could potentially save someone's ass in the long run. And a surprise could lead to more drama.
A surprise could lead to more drama. I can't wait. I'll be seated, as the girls
I
say.
had to be very vague about it. I almost said more into it. I'm like, no, gotta keep it vague. But that's your reward for now for everyone who had listened to my beautiful voice. Kelly Clarkson would hate me if I ever won on her show.
That was a good one. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
I think that's it. We appreciate you guys watching the One World podcast. We'll most likely keep doing it after every episode if you guys continue to want it. And feel free to leave comments on certain topics of the game you guys want us to touch on after each episode. So thanks for tuning in with me and Rich Dog. I'm still in the game. Don't forget it. And Richie's hosting it. Stay
Yeah,
tuned
I'm
for
hosting
episode
it.
2 soon.
You know the best part about this? People actually have to listen to my voice after the second episode this season. So if
Fair.
you're into that, you're gonna enjoy this season.